It's time now for the post-chapter videos. The first one, always up, is the predictions for the next chapter. For chapter 56 of 100 Years Quest, it's, 11 days from now? About 10 and a half days from now, and then we'll have a new chapter. So, right now, with all the fights set up, I already talked about in the last video that the whole, layouts of each of the fight, Jalal versus Gears, Jalal should be capable of fighting him just fine one-on-one. I still think Laxus is going to end up coming to help, but otherwise it's like, what is this character going to do? And it would be really cool to have a Laxus and Jalal team up, because we didn't get the Laxus versus Jalal fight, at least currently, so a team up could be, the next best thing, and then maybe they kind of develop almost rivalry, and then you can have, maybe they'll fight later, but more of like a fun training version, and you're like, okay, we got to push each other and get stronger, or I don't know. Either way, that's something that could be pretty good in there. But outside of that, we have the fight against Metro, and it was emphasized that you're gonna have Godjill and on one side with the golems, the mass amount of golems, and then Gray and Juvia on mainly Metro, trying to get to Metro's main body and dealing with his golems that he's got directly around him. So that one I think is going to be cool. I still see Godjill and Gray really needing a power-up. They haven't gotten one in a long time, and especially when you already had a bunch of different kind of like, oh, here's our new stuff, everything so far within the series. We got most of this arc, but obviously we got Natsu getting, the first sight of having both I'm just going to say what appears to be, so I don't have to explain, it's kind of obvious, but we haven't confirmed, that being his new form that he had against Merc's Phobia, when he had, what looks to be his Aetherius powers on top of Dragon Force, Lucy Stardust Mix, you have Wendy with her stuff with Irene, and you have Urza with her new enchanted swords. So, Gray and Godjill, they haven't got anything, and I imagine, really when you think about Gray's last power-up was getting his Devil Slayer, abilities. You can kind of count when he got, was against Invul, and he, gained the ability to adapt to ice, in real time. Even, ones, that can void your durability, like Invul's True Ice. And Godjill really hasn't gotten a full power-up since his fight with, the Shadow-possessed Rogue, and, we got Iron Shadow Dragon mode. But obviously the most recent one overall was him getting Dragon Force. And that was still, really when you think about the amount of chapters in the, in that spot between then and now, it's still it'd be over 100, because it was in the late 480s. But I think they deserve it. I could see some really cool power-ups coming their way. But the fight that has me the most question, the fight that has me in the spot that makes me kind of wonder, above all the others, how it's going to go, is the fight against Gears, because Wendy's strong, but I don't think even with her magic restored, she's going to be strong enough to beat Doom, and especially I don't think she's strong enough to beat Doom within the 5-minute time span that it's going to take before Carla dies. And when you think about the areas, one of the reasons why, Jalal and Laxus teaming up is a possibility is because we saw Laxus nearby. Maybe he gets Urza to a safe spot and goes back to try and fight him. Or maybe, Urza gets a little bit up and then Jalal is teamed up with both Laxus and Urza. Would be pretty badass. I think I'd prefer just Laxus and Jalal, just getting some spotlight. Urza just got a badass fight. But with Doom, I think personally, in the area, the best way that it could really be used without doing some shenanigans is the White Witch, because we don't know much about the White Witch. We don't know much about what, her overall, full goal. We don't know her backstory. We don't know, what she's going to do when she gets up, because she didn't have a personal beef with the Fairy Tail Guild in the main cast, but now she's got a personal beef against Selene, and what's in the way of her getting to Selene is going to be, obviously, Alderaan, and then more so directly in front of her, Doom. And she, out of all of them, would be the most sensible one to be able to defeat a God Seed with, I would imagine, maybe only half effort, half difficulty. But on top of that, you'd be able to see more of what she can do, because we only really have seen her, magic drain and then take over people. But we don't know what other spells she has, because she can't be on level with Xerath with just that, I would imagine, because Xerath was really powerful, but he also had a ton of different abilities. I think she has to have a good handful of spells. Like, she's not as old as Xerath, and she doesn't seem like as like magically gifted, because that was one of Xerath's things, is he was like a genius when it came to magic. But she's got to have a good amount of magic outside of just, you know, what she's shown. So I think it'd be really cool. When I thought about her whole rebellious group, is what if she has multiple members, but because her power is like controlling people, she has her own personal like summons, and she could kind of be almost at that point like a dark Lucy, because that's how she kind of felt in some ways near the start, but went from, you know, love rival-ish character to villain. Maybe she could be both, but I think that'd be really cool. And it's kind of like when we saw Zoldio's magic when he was in Capricorn's body, that he could, you know, he could pretty much summon people. It was, you know, he had the opposite of how the Celestial Gates worked. He had them, and he was able to kind of like steal these like war heroes and powerful just you know, guys throughout time, which is weird when you think about it, because I don't think any of them were, I had to go back and look, I don't think any of them were magic. I think they were all like much further back in history, you know, normal powerful warriors, kind of like the treasure hunters. When you think about them, they didn't really use magic, but they were, you know, being pretty easily by, you know, the main cast back then, but it wasn't like a full, like, oh, they didn't even take them seriously. They got a good showing, and they were, you know, they didn't have magic. They had, you know, superhuman abilities. You could have that, like, something like that with I don't know, I like how I ranted and went off on a tangent about Zoldio's ability, but instead, maybe she has her, like, strongest followers, like, instead of just being the guild, like, throughout her journey, she was able to latch, like, go like steal guild masters or something, or maybe she has some of the wizard saints. That'd be a really cool way to introduce them, or even have some of the war gods, because we only seen 2 of the 18. We saw Yagdo Rigora and Ikusa Tsunagi. There's still 16 of these guys out there that can still be summoned, so it'd be another good way to bring in older stuff that can be kind of like filled in, or, you know, introduce more of the rebellious group, or even just in the idea of her having her guild like inside her body. I think it'd be really cool, and it would be badass to see, because if she ends up joining with the Fairy Tail Guild, well, like, cause she's technically a member right now, she still you know, has the stamp, and she's still part of the guild, but she's clearly a villain, and I think it'd be really cool if they have like a villain temporarily like within their group, like aiding them, and then throughout the journey like makes an addition to the main cast, and you know, but you have this character amongst them that's not gonna play nicely and always get into like this brutal like kill mode. She's like, anytime they run into a conflict, like the main cast would try and figure something to do, you know, you'd see each other personality things, but I imagine the White Witch would be like straight to, all right, time to mind control, torture, or something way more aggressive, because she's got clearly a much more malefic mind. Also, we can find out her damn name, because that's the thing that bothered me, honestly, about the Toka reveal. Like, I liked how it played out, but it's like, then she's not Toka anymore. She's just the White Witch, and we don't have a name for her, and she was introduced all the way, well, she was introduced at the beginning. We didn't find out about the White Witch until a little bit later, but still, character we've had in here for this long, no name, is kind of weird. Anyway, I mean, I guess you can count Acnologia, because he doesn't, like, his name isn't actually his name. He forgot his original name. Either way, I think that'll be really neat to see. And then, just in general, the fight between Doom and the White Witch would be probably one of the, I think, would be the highlighting point of this arc, or I guess of this piece of the 100 Years Quest saga. But anyway, I've rambled on a little bit more than I wanted to, so I will, you know, end the video and get to some other stuff that I've got planned coming up for some projects and some stuff for you guys. But anyway, other than that, comment below. I really appreciate the thumbs up the video, from the like button and subscribe button, and check out my other videos. But other than that, I appreciate everyone who's already subscribed. I thank you all for listening. Bye.